Some of the most interesting photos of buildings don't include the whole structure, but concentrate on an interesting detail, such as this plaque on the floor, which commemorates when it was built. I'm going to take several different shots in a series to celebrate it. In this shot, I'm going to keep things fairly traditional, conventional, and just shoot it facing straight down. I'm going to try and keep this image nice and square, and I really like the way that these tiles are spreading out from the subject in the center. We've got a few different options for composition here. We could position it maybe to one of the corners. We could rotate the phone so that these tiles are coming out at different angles. That actually looks quite nice with a diagonal line across the image. But I really like it slap bang in the middle and with these tiles coming out to the corners. However, my feet are in this shot, so rather than crouching down, I'm just going to zoom in. Here's how it looks at 2 times. And now I've just got to be careful that these corner parts look the same across the image. Sometimes it can be useful if you take several pictures while slightly moving the phone between each, because it gives you a few chances to get this right. Okay, I'm quite pleased with that as an individual shot. For this view, I'm going for a macro shot, a close-up detail of these sea creatures in the middle of the plaque. So I've crouched down, I'm on the ground, I've got nice and close, and it's just a case of framing it in a way that looks attractive to you. We're really concentrating on the details here. And this is a macro shot, but that just means a close-up. Your phone may have a dedicated macro mode, which gives you better results at close range. Others just simply let you get this close. Just make sure you tap on the part that you would like in sharp focus. As for the composition, I've tried to keep these lines parallel to the edges of the frame. I've wanted to include the date that this building was constructed, and I like the way that the creatures are heading towards the right. They're actually moving into the shot, so it looks slightly more dynamic than before. For this shot, I really want to include a macro close-up detail of the plaque, but I also want to include a more distant element, the fencing and the sea or the landscape beyond. So again, you want to shoot this from a very low angle and point the camera upwards. But ideally, I'd like to get closer to this subject at the bottom of the frame. The problem is that the camera is at the top of the phone. It's too high up. So an easy solution is to turn your phone around. And this is now putting the camera at the bottom where it's much closer to the ground. And look how much different that perspective is. It's really dramatic, especially on this subject here in the foreground. So again, it's a case of reframing. I want to make sure that these railings are nice and square and that these 2 zeros here are pointing into the corners of the frame, because I quite like the way that that looks. And do remember, if you're in an uncomfortable position, as I am now, take a few different pictures just to make sure you stand a good chance of getting one that's lined up exactly how you want it. Okay, now let's review those pictures and see which look best. This is my most traditional view of the series, where I'm looking straight down at the plaque. And I like how it's unapologetically occupying the center of the frame with these tiles fanning out, but equally drawing your eye into it. The attention is focused in the middle. Sure, you could put it towards the corners, but I really like where it's positioned right there. Here's my macro view concentrating on the sea creatures. And again, I've positioned them slightly to the side so that they've got some room to move to the right. It's like this one, this lower creature is heading towards the right side, and this second creature behind it is chasing the first one. And at close range, notice how when I've focused on this sea creature, the date behind it has become slightly blurred due to the shallow depth of field. I think it gives it a really nice dramatic effect. Here's the view that incorporates both a macro close-up in the lower half and a distant landscape in the top half of the frame. Again, I was able to achieve this dramatic perspective by turning the phone upside down to position the camera really close to the ground. That's what's allowed these really close-up details of the date here, with the 2 zeros in the corners, drawing your eyes towards the sea creatures in the middle and beyond to the railings and the sea behind that. And again, the moody sky in the background there, really giving this a nice atmosphere. You could post this series on individual days or even as a carousel.